Hey, hello there. Welcome to Talking with Tony. The football season is underway, and I'm excited today to welcome another panel member. Usually, not only do you see my handsome self, but you see the handsome mug, if you will, of another person here, even when we do Zoom. Today, that person is Kevin White. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, which is for consecutive weeks now that we've had a form of gremlins come in to the set here, if you will, and mess with the Talking with Tony. We had some mechanical difficulties with our guest Danny Arp last week, and Danny will be back probably next week, and those have been taken care of. So we'll welcome Danny back. But now it's time to welcome one of my very favorite people back to the show, our TWT panel member, Kevin White. Red, how are you?
We're doing great. Good to see
Hey,
y'all.
yes, I should say Kevin can see us. We cannot see him. Kevin, I got to say, you sound fantastic.
The audio is great.
Before we get into talking with Tony, let's brag a little bit on me in 6 weeks this summer. I think you were one of the very first who read it, and I believe you thoroughly enjoyed it as well.
I absolutely did. It was a great read, great story. Um, I thoroughly just could not put the book down, you know.
That's very kind of you to say, and I appreciate those compliments. You were so kind to me too. After you had read about 8 chapters, you were like, "Man, this is just like a book. It just flows very nicely, very, very smoothly. It's well written." I really appreciate your support on that project and all your positive words as well.
Yeah, I did enjoy it, and that's a great point there that I read quite a bit, a lot of fiction type stuff and just for entertainment mainly and it was just an easy read. It flowed well. It's like you were a seasoned writer.
What's still saying, man? Even a blind squirrel finds an acorn every once in a while, right? Or the broken clock is right 2 times a day. So, I stumbled into something good. Now I'm working on the sequel. And somebody asked me, it was a magazine story they were doing on me recently. They said, "Well, do you think you can get to the top of the charts with the sequel, the success?" And I said, "You know what? I've been blessed to be to the pinnacle one time, to the zenith, if you will. If I don't, the fall and recover, the sequel doesn't make it, then there have been greater tragedies." That's what I was saying. I sort of kin to one of my favorite teams of Auburn or Ohio State or Memphis winning a national championship. I mean, that's a national championship that can't be taken away from me. That's the number one spot that can't be taken away from me. So regardless of what happens, I think I've got the right to feel really good about the original.
You absolutely do. I mean, it was a great book. I'm looking forward to the sequel. I
Well,
want to see what happens. Right?
you want to see what Miles does? Does he act foolish and go down the wrong rabbit hole, so to speak, or and who does he play baseball for in the future? Because that was just a 1 year contract with the Yankees. I'm eager to see your picks because I now have to call you an NFL expert after you ran the table in NFL games. You and your buddy Stormy Weathers, man, he did it as well. He ran the table in the NFL as well. But Kevin, after a little bit of a slow start, you're now over 500. I have you 11-10. Now, I don't want to talk about your 5-star picks. We'll get a 5-star pick from you today, but congratulations for getting over the 500 mark and your success with the NFL in week one of the NFL season.
Yeah, I would account that to that blind squirrel again. Keeping his nose to the ground. Right.
I hear you. Let's begin college football. There's an exciting game on Friday night. I believe it's on the national Fox channel, actually, on the people with basic cable. If anybody still has basic cable, could get this game. It's Arizona, Kansas State. Kansas State, Kevin, is favored by 7. They're coming off a road victory, an impressive win against Tulane. Tulane's had a good program here the last few years and had some big wins, including the win over Southern Cal in the Cotton Bowl. And Kansas State went on the road. Now they're going to face, high-powered offense in Arizona, but Arizona has had some, defensive issues in the first couple of games. How do you see this game coming out with the Wildcats?
I like Kansas State in this one. Arizona's a good team. I don't think they're good enough defensively to hang with Kansas State.
All right, and Kansas State's very physical. So Kevin will lay the 7 points. He likes Kansas State -7. That's the lone Friday night game. Let's get into the Saturday action. The Alabama Crimson Tide go to Big Ten country to face Wisconsin, and Alabama takes with them a 15.5 point spread. They are favored by 15.5. What do you think, Kevin?
I think we're along that same lines as Kansas State, Arizona. Wisconsin's a good program, great program historically. Um, I just don't think they have the offensive power to hang with Bama. I think Bama's got a better defense. Um, though they struggled last week, and that score was not indicative of how that game went. Um, I think Bama. I have to go with Bama until somebody proves otherwise. You got to give them credit. I like Bama at the 15.5.
There's been some curious start times to the college football season. And I think if I was Wisconsin, if I had my druthers, I think I would want this game at night or at least at 3:30 or 4 o'clock. The fact that they're playing so early, I think will benefit Alabama as well. That being said, for my first pick, which is going to be my 5 star, I'm going to go with Wisconsin plus 15.5. I do believe Alabama wins, probably by at least 14 or so. I can see this kind of being like the Clemson Georgia game where it was tight for 2.5 quarters and then Georgia imposed their will on Clemson. I can see Alabama doing that against Wisconsin, but I do believe Wisconsin's offense can score some points against Alabama. So I'll go opposite of Kevin on that one, and I will take Wisconsin, the Badger, and I will ask Jake to find the Badger mascot, and plus 15.5 is my 5 star. Let's move to a game that's important in the household I live in with my wife, a senior executive at the University of Memphis. They are undefeated going to Florida State, who is not yet to win a game coming off a week's rest. The Seminoles 0-2, but 6.5 point favorites over Memphis. How do you see it, Kevin?
You know, my heart wants to go with Memphis. FSU has shown the past 2 weeks, two-loss team, that they're struggling. Their quarterback's not giving them the play that they expected. I feel like he's holding on to the ball a little too long, not being decisive with his decisions. But I also find it hard to believe that they're going to go 0-3 to start, So, though I'd like Memphis to win this, not an FSU fan, as most know. I got to go with the Noles on this one.
I don't blame you. And I understand that logic, and also that they had gone over to Europe and then had to come back and kind of play on a Labor Day night, which is sort of different. And they're more settled now after having a week off to recover. Can I just get you to pull for the good Tigers, for the Memphis Tigers?
I absolutely will.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's good enough for me. Kevin goes to Florida State minus 6.5. So far, he's like somebody who has a crush on the school teachers who likes the chalk, as they say. He's got Kansas State, all favorites. Kansas State -7, Alabama minus 15.5, and Florida State minus 6.5. He changes that in the next game. It's the Battle of the Apple Cup, and it's Washington State at Washington, where Washington is 4.5 point favorites. And Red, you've taken Washington State. Tell me about the pick with the Cougs.
So, here in the recent 3-4 years or whatnot, Washington is on the win streak, right? And so, I think Washington State has a lot to prove here, and to change the whole dynamic of this rivalry, right? And for that reason alone, I think Washington State gets up for this game, and beats Washington, beats the Huskies. So I'm going to take them plus 4.5.
Because Washington is no longer in the Pac-12 conference like 10 other teams. Well, I should say nine others, 10 total. There's only 2 that remain, Washington State and Oregon State, and still call themselves Pac-12 conference. And they're every game they'll be on television because they have that contract. I do think it's good for the rivalry. That I hate that they're playing this early in the year versus last game of the year. But Kevin, I'm someone who likes rivalry football games. I'm glad for Washington and Washington State, Oregon and Oregon State, that they still will be playing each other, and they both face each other this weekend, early in the season, but better than nothing at all.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The in-state rivalries are a tradition like none other, and like Georgia, Georgia Tech, Auburn, Alabama. Huge games like that, and out on the West Coast, these games are huge to them. It's huge to that fan base. It's just great for college football all around.
If you're just now joining Talking with Tony, my guest today is Kevin White. He's joining us. We had a little mechanical issues, if you will, some production problems. I didn't ask you where you were today. Are you down in that Kingsland Saints? Where are you at today, Kevin?
Brunswick, Georgia is where my office is, right
Mm-hmm.
before you go over on to St. Simon's Island.
Okay. All right. You know what we say here on Talking with Tony, you can't hide money. There's no poor people down in that Kingsland, St. Mary's area down there. But it's great to have Red with us, and he's chosen 4 of the games. Now he talked about how fun in-state rivalries are. Here's another one. Notre Dame and Purdue at West Lafayette, with Notre Dame favored by 10 coming off their shocking loss against Northern Illinois. This game means a lot to Boilermaker Nation. What do you think?
I think it does mean a lot to them, and since 2011, Notre Dame hasn't covered a double-digit spread, right? So I think Notre Dame would probably win this game. I just don't think they can cover the 10 points. I think they're not quite good enough to beat Purdue by 10.
I'm gonna pick Notre Dame. I'm gonna go opposite with you, which is probably a good thing for you because I'm 3-5 this year, where you're over 500 after having this terrible week. It's the first time I've ever been under 500 in the history of the show, and I am 3-5. I'm gonna go with Notre Dame because I think they need a statement win, bouncing back off that loss in Northern Illinois. They've been sort of made fun of and mocked, and I just want to see what the Fighting Irish are made of. If they're true, they'll put up their dukes like the Irish like the Leprechaun does, and they'll make something. They'll bounce back. Let's move on to a team and a pick that you have that is unanimous across the board with all of 4 members of my panel. It's Georgia favored by 24 at Kentucky. Former Georgia kicker Hap Hines, who's a frequent guest here on Talking with Tony, still holds the record for the longest field goal at Commonwealth Stadium, and I hope it's not broken on Saturday. Georgia probably won't kick many field goals, at least according to my panel, because they all like the Bulldogs. So you don't have a problem facing Brock Vandegraaff. You believe Georgia rolls in Lexington on Saturday night.
I do. I was highly surprised this past weekend that South Carolina just absolutely drummed Kentucky. I thought Kentucky was better, but I didn't watch much of that game. I did watch some highlights of it, and Vandegraaff showed, while he should be holding the clipboard behind Beck, right, that his decisions were poor. He made some mistakes. I think if they change their game plan up and use his legs a little more, I think Georgia's defense is just too fast, and I think that's where McGriff is best, is using his legs. We take that away from them and force him to beat us with his arm. I don't think they have a chance coming out of this thing less than 24 points.
I saw Vandergriff play quarterback at Prince Avenue Christian, and I thought he was just fabulous. And the guy that I was with that night said, I know he's 5-star and all this, but he says, I just don't see it working out in big time SEC games. He says, you're really overlooking the competition that he is facing. Now, I don't want to concede to that yet being correct, because it's only been one contest that he's really struggling in. Obviously, the season is so young. There's not much to go by right now. I hope for his sake that he's not a bust, because he looks so talented to me with such an incredible arm, and he was so highly recruited. Your point, though, is right. And I think that for them to be successful, they have to put him in the best place to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to be a bust per se. I think he's just lacking the on the field experience, especially against quality opponents like Georgia, right?
Mm-hmm.
He went against them every day in practice for a couple of years, right? So he
Right.
kind of knows what the program's about, so he has that advantage. But in the heat of the moment, it takes some quick decision making. Okay, and help me out here, AJ. We got a former Camden County kid that was a backup back in Aaron Murray's day at UGA. I can't. His name's right there, and I can't remember it to save my life.
Think on think on that in a few minutes. One of us will come up with it. The
Well,
little put
the
put him
point
put
of
a
it
little
was
pressure.
I got to play in a golf tournament with him 4 or 5 years ago. and so we had some
Uh-huh.
conversations during that round about why he never got the opportunity to start. And the point he made was that he had the NFL arm. The talent level between him, Murray, and other quarterbacks in that room was the talent level was minuscule, the difference, right? He's like,
Uh-huh.
the difference was when they went in that film room and they put a scenario on that whiteboard, Aaron Murray could answer it just right off the rip, just no question. He was that quick at understanding how to read a defense and make the decisions. It wasn't that his talent was any greater, but he was the smartest guy in the room,
Hmm.
right?
Okay. Uh, Fan favorite Deion Sanders is the head coach at Colorado. Last year, Colorado State really outplayed. Hey, was that Mason Hudson, by the way? Was that Aaron Murray's backup?
No, no, it was. I'll remember it shortly. It's
Okay.
he's a local guy here.
My favorite UGA backup was Joe Tereshinski, if you remember him out of
Go
Athens
team.
Academy. Got to play it, got to start against Florida one year in Jacksonville and played a lot more after that. But I was just thinking about how he was inserted as a backup. Colorado's playing Colorado State. Last year, Colorado State outplayed Colorado. Colorado survived with a victory. This time, they're favored by 7, and they have to go to Fort Collins. What do you think?
I'm a Rams fan. I lived there for about 4.5 years in Fort Collins, so I like the Rams, but I just don't see them winning this game. I think that the Buffaloes are just going to out athlete them,
Mm.
just point blank. And
And they could not protect for Sanders, and Nebraska had their way with them, so they're looking for a rebound victory. One of the most liberal universities in America, California, came to Auburn, Alabama last weekend to face one of the most conservative universities in America. We have it this coming weekend. Colorado's the folks in Boulder. That university is one of the most liberal in the country. They're going to face one of the most conservative universities in Fort Collins. Be curious to see how it comes out. Just reviewing for me, I've got 2 picks in college. Wisconsin plus 15 and a half. Notre Dame minus 10. I hate saying it, but I'm 3-5 on the year, 1-1 with a 5-star. My 5-star was Wisconsin. Let's go to the NFL. The Saints are at the Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are favored by 6.5. They're my favorite team. I went against them last weekend and I was wrong. What do you think? You think they go to 2-0, Kevin?
I think the Cowboys do go 2-0 until they prove me otherwise. They're very much like the Falcons in my mind, right? They always tend to let us down, right? So until they prove otherwise, I'm going to have to roll with the Cowboys. They look really good this past weekend. So hopefully they can continue that streak.
So he likes the Cowboys minus 6.5. Your 5-star is the next game. The Pittsburgh Steelers favored by 3 at Denver. Who is your 5-star?
The Steelers are my 5-star. I like them at -3 over the Broncos. They look really good this past weekend. It's yet to be determined who the full-time starter is going to be, but I don't think they go wrong with either one. Russell Wilson can beat you with his legs. Justin Fields has shown he can do so as well. They have weapons on the edge. Najee Harris is a great running back. The guys up front are just getting the push right now, so I'm liking the Steelers.
Boy, if the favorites do well on our picks, you're going to do very well. You stay with another one. The CJ Stroud led Houston Texans at home against the Bears. The Texans are favored by 6.5, and you think the Texans get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, this is one that there again, that blind squirrel's got to help me out because I was just throwing a dart on this one. I like Stroud. I think he's got great potential to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Um, he's got the weapons around him with Diggs now and a few others out there at receiver. If he can just make the right decisions to get the ball out of his hand, I think they can do very well this season.
Monday Night Football will be in Philadelphia, and it'll be those before mentioned Atlanta Falcons that you talked about. They're 6.5-point underdogs to the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, you got to love the schedule makers in the NFL. Here's a team in the Deep South, plays in the NFC South Division, and they open up with back-to-back games against teams from Pennsylvania. The Atlanta Falcons do. I do think the Falcons are the team to beat in that division. I hate that they are off to the start that they are off to, and New Orleans and Tampa Bay are off to to very fine starts. They are 6.5 point underdogs to the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think you're very pessimistic when it comes to Atlanta right now.
I am. I mean, that's it. I grew up in LaGrange, Georgia. I grew up, I wore a Tommy Notice jersey as a kid. I was forced to be a Falcon, and they've let me down and let me down and let me down, and I really like the way the Eagles are playing ball, even carrying over from last year. This first week, they did really well. Jalen Hurts is making plays. Running backs are doing their thing. I think they're going to be hard to stop, and the Falcons, they just don't, they just didn't look like they had it all together yet. I think they will get there, through the course of the season. And that's the fortunate thing in the NFL. You don't have to win them all, right?
That's absolutely correct. The Falcons, you've alluded to them letting you down so many times. We're going to have members when you pass away, hopefully years and years and years from now. We're going to have members of the Atlanta Falcons be your pallbearers at your funeral, so we can say they let you down one more time. How about
that? Well, we'd have to get Jim Donnan and Ray Goff involved. There's two of them as well, right?
And Kirby Smart may bring you back to life again.
That's right.
He's been outstanding. All right, it's time to run down to everybody's picks on the panel. We'll start with our expert picker, Danny Art, who's 12-9. Danny also 0-2 with 5 starts. He's got Kansas State -7, Wisconsin +15.5. The Florida State Seminoles -6.5, Washington -4.5, Purdue +10. His 5-star, the Georgia Bulldogs -24. It's a popular pick. Colorado, he likes -7. In the NFL, his selections, the Dallas Cowboys -6.5, the Denver Broncos +3, the Houston Texans -6.5, and the Philadelphia Eagles -6.5. We'll go to my picks. I've mentioned I'm 3-5 and not okay with it. I'm 1-1 with 5 stars. My 5 stars, Wisconsin +15.5. My other pick in the college game is Notre Dame -10, and it's strictly from a standpoint of they need to bounce back. I'm going to go with 2 NFL teams. I have a lot of trepidation when it comes to both. The Denver Broncos +3 at home against the Steelers. The Steelers starting out with back-to-back road games. That's a bit of a challenge for them in different time zones. And I will go with the Falcons on Monday night +6.5 and hope for a good competitive game at Philadelphia. I'll challenge Jake. We'll go back to soccer this week. I'm 0-0 this year after going, I think, 14-1 last year. Give me Manchester United to win by at least 1 goal or more at Southampton. That's early Saturday morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. And my favorite team, Bayern Munich, they're going to need to win by 2 goals or more in the German Bundesliga against Holstein. And I think that they can very well do that. So it'll be Bayern Munich -1.5 against Holstein, Manchester United -0.5 against Southampton. Let's continue on with Stormy. He's 11-10, a game back of Danny, 0-2 with the 5 stars. He likes Arizona +7, Alabama -15.5, Memphis +6.5, Washington -4.5. He likes the Huskies there. Notre Dame, he likes the Fighting Irish. We'll look for the Leprechaun putting up the Dukes -10. He's got the Georgia Bulldogs -24, and that's not easy for him to do, being the Georgia Tech backer that he is. He's got the Colorado State Rams +7. His NFL selections, the New Orleans Saints +6.5, and then it's all favorites after that. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers -3, the Houston Texans -6.5, and his 5-star is the Philadelphia Eagles -6.5. And as I mentioned, he went through the NFL last week unblemished, perfect as well, just like Kevin. John is 11-10, 0-2 with the 5 stars. He goes with Arizona +7 on Friday night. He's got Alabama -15.5, Memphis +6.5, Washington -4.5. He goes with the Fighting Irish, goes with Notre Dame -10, likes the Georgia Bulldogs. As I said, it was a unanimous selection, -24. His 5-star is Colorado State +7. His NFL selections begin with the New Orleans Saints +6.5, and then you know these numbers by now. Pittsburgh Steelers -3, Houston Texans -6.5, Philadelphia Eagles -6.5. And then to Kevin, who's 11-10 overall, and like we said, a little bit under on the 5 stars, 0-2. But you know what? I got a feeling this week he bounces back. Kansas State -7, Alabama -15.5, Florida State -6.5, Washington State +4.5, Purdue +10. He loves the Bulldogs -24 and Colorado -7. That completes his college selections in the NFL. The Dallas Cowboys -6.5. You know the rest. The 5 stars, the Pittsburgh Steelers -3, the Houston Texans -6.5. And he likes the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday night against his Atlanta Falcons -6.5. But just like the Memphis Florida State selection, where he'll be pulling for Memphis and he picked Florida State, he's going to be pulling for those Falcons against the Philadelphia Eagles. Kevin, are you old enough to remember there was a year around 77, 1978, where the Falcons beat the Eagles in the wild card in the NFL playoffs game? I believe it was in Atlanta, 13-7 or 14-13. It was a real tight, real close game, and the Falcons got the better of them. Are you familiar with that game? Does your memory go back that far?
My memory does not go back that far. I was old enough. But I do not remember. You have that elephant memory when it comes to stuff like that. I do not.
Yeah, well, I don't have many gifts, but as my friend Will Blair said, you know more useless information than anybody. So I guess that's something. We have a couple of minutes before we let you go and before we wrap things up, Kevin. What is it about football? Whether we have problems with name, image, and likeness, and the transfer portal, and all of the things going on with college football. It's just, what is it though about people, especially in the South, that people just, it's like hope has arrived for them when football season is here.
Yeah, it's a way of life in the South. I mean, I think it starts at the high school level. It's especially South Georgia and Georgia, period. I mean, this is huge. I mean, people live and breathe football, and I think it all kind of stems from all the fans and the excitement, the speed of the game, that type of thing, and then just the camaraderie, just to be able to get together and see old friends at the game and stuff like that. I think that just draws people in, and then the NIL and everything else that goes along with it, just making college football now almost semi-pro football is just a product of the success of football as a whole. We all know it's what pays for everything else, right? When it comes to the schools, especially at the high school level. It does so in most colleges as well, so it's all about that dollar, right?
Yeah, I agree. And Chris Wilkie put up a friend guy that went to high school with us, put up something on his Facebook not too long ago, like, why do these small teams, why are the big teams even full playing with the small teams? Well, I can tell you why. It does a lot for the athletic programs at that other school, period, funding, because you just said football pays for it. And the Alabama A&M band played at Auburn and concluded their performance with the AU, thanking Auburn for allowing them to come and perform on their field in front of that crowd, which I thought was a great moment for those kids. And just to be able to play in front of 80,000 people like that. Red, I've got 25 seconds. Anything else on your mind before we wrap it up?
No, I enjoyed it. We'll work out these technical difficulties. I'll figure out what's going on here with a camera, and we'll see you again.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. How does that sound? You'll come back and do it. Does that sound good?
Sounds good to me.
All right, folks. For Kevin White and Jake Barton, I'm Tony Jones. We'll see you next time right here on Talking with Tony.